Justice Delos Santos?
I do.
Well, he's joining us right now on the River Islands guest line. Covers the Giants for the Bay Area News Group. And Justice, good morning. Joe Spadoni alongside Joe Shasky. And let's start right here when it comes to that loss last night in the desert. 12-2 the final. Robbie Ray, 4 1/3, 11 hits, 9 earned runs, leaves the game after the comebacker happened. Was that just an off night? Is there a reason to be concerned? Did they pull him because of injury, struggle? What's your read on it, Justice?
Yo, I just want to say that was a crazy transition.
That's me. That's the morning roast, dog.
Real quick, if anyone happens to be in Phoenix, Taco Viva or Tacos Chihuas, those are the two spots out here. But
okay, if you had to choose, which protein? Because it depends where I go. Like some places I go to the carne. Sometimes I have to get the spicy pork. Like it depends where I go. But if you had to choose, which protein would you choose?
All things being equal, it's the Outback store. All things being equal.
I love that.
Gotta get that pineapple flavor.
As far as Mr. Robbie Ray last night, starting with the comebacker, it was kind of just his time to go. Like he said, it kind of hit him in the red meat, so no real concern there. The one thing that he did mention, he kind of floated the idea that he might have been tipping his pitches, something that he's going to kind of have to go back to the drawing board there. He didn't say definitively that he was. But the Giants were down 4 runs after 6 pitches. They just straight up ambushed him. I think second pitch of the game was a single, third pitch of the game was a single, fourth pitch reaches on air, and then 6 pitches in, Nolan Arenado hits one. So it's definitely an atypical night for Robbie Ray. Usually he's able to pitch out of traffic. The 9 runs that he allowed were the most he's ever had in a single game. The 8 earned runs were the most he's ever allowed in a single game. So sometimes, I always give starters, these starts are going to happen, once or two of the year. It really does not matter who you are. These are going to happen over the course of the year. But it is going to be interesting to see whether or not this potential tipping issue does persist.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking that he might have had a stiff neck from how many balls were ripped to left field yesterday, Casey Schmidt's direction. But neither here nor there.
So funny.
What's going on? Come on, dog. Laugh a little.
Such a good joke. I give you a 2.
Laugh a little. That was our joke in the day. How's your neck, dude? Because, dude, you were snapping your head on every single swing. What's going on with Chapman at third? Because, defensively, it hasn't looked as clean as it's looked in years past, and the ball's going off the heel of the glove. He's kind of backhanding balls here and there. He bobbled one on a spin play, still got the out later on. Is he taking some of the offensive woes into the field defensively, or are these just outliers?
I would consider them outliers. Chapman has a almost decade-long track record of being one of the best defenders in baseball. And it's weird. It's one of those things where when you watch him every day, his start to the season was really bad. It was just so atypical, but he's been pretty much fine. He's been his standard self. He's making those throws on the run. He's making those backhand plays that nobody else really can. And so yesterday was kind of an outlier for him. The ball that he made an error on, it was one of those tricky in-betweeners where you either completely charge it or you have to retreat back on it. He kind of got a little bit caught in the middle, which I can't even blame him for. It's just a really tough play. And then the one that he bobbled, he ended up making the play. So if you look at the defensive metrics on the whole, he still rates out as one of the best defenders in the game by either defensive run saved, outs above average. So I would consider last night an outlier. When you watch him every day, he's still been Matt Chapman at the plate, and I don't think the offensive woes have carried into that.
Justice Delos Santos joining us here on the River Islands guest line, covers the Giants for the Bay Area News Group. Justice, last night, obviously, Jung-Hoo Lee leaving the game, back spasms, Willy Adames finger contusion. How concerned should Giants fans be with both of those injuries?
I wouldn't be too concerned right now just because, it's tough to say, the extent of his injuries. With Lee, they said he's probably not going to play tonight. Just want to give that back an opportunity to calm down. With Adames, kind of got hit in the thumb on a grounder in the 5th inning, that really just spiraled. And you could kind of see him shaking his hand after the game and, or not after the game, during the game. And kind of at that point, they're down 10 runs. There's really no point in trotting him out there. So, kind of get ahead on it, get some treatment on it, and we'll see if Adames is in the lineup today. When I asked Vitello about it yesterday, he said they'll kind of just check and see on it. But as of right now, wouldn't be too concerned, but it is just something to be cognizant of going forward.
I thought Casey looked pretty good in left field yesterday. He got a lot of action, and I thought for the most part, he had the tough play down the line that got a little by him, but I thought he looked all right. And I think his arm obviously is going to play at a lot of different positions. But in terms of tracking a ball, I thought he looked like he had, he was going to be a pretty proficient outfielder. Did you like what you saw from him?
I mean, considering he hasn't started a game in left field since high school, I think he handled himself all right. And I think the thing with Schmidt is I don't think he's necessarily going to be the everyday left fielder with Heliot Ramos being injured, but I think he can be a little bit of a skeleton key as far as, finding opportunities to get Bryce Eldridge in the lineup a little more consistently going forward. And I'm having a story, published on tonight about, I talked to Posey about, Eldridge's playing time. That's going to go up in hopefully the next hour or so. But, Schmidt, a lot of the backlog with Eldridge is just a result of how this roster is constructed. And if there can be days where Schmidt goes out to left, that clears up either first base or DH. And, Schmidt himself said, I wouldn't expect Gold Glove caliber defense, but if he can hold his own with the way that his bat has been, he's leading this team with 8 homers and OPS. If he can hold his own on defense and still provide that offense, that gives the Giants a lot of options going forward with Heliot Ramos being injured for the time being. They do have a lot of options as far as left fielders. It's like weirdly like a crazy amount of options, like 5 guys. Like Drew Gilbert, you have both your like Eric Haas and Jesus Rodriguez to play there. Will Brennan can play there as well. But I do think, if Schmidt continues to look good out there, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him continue to get more reps out there.
So you're posting an article on the Bay Area News Group site. Where can people find this article that's going to get dropped soon if they want to click on it?
I always say Bay Area News Group. You can San Jose Mercury News, East Bay Times, whatever you want to call it, as long as you read, as long as you subscribe.
Okay. So you sat down with Posey in like a one-on-one setting? Was that what it was?
I sat down with him before the game, yeah.
Okay.
On Monday.
What was his tone? Because I'm like cannot wait for this article to drop. Just overall, like, what was his tone? Was he content, frustrated? Like, I don't know.
I mean, we isolated to the Eldridge issue. I didn't want to belabor the point. But, Posey's always very calm. He's always, very, level head on the shoulders. He's never going to get too high, never going to get too low when he's talking to us. But he was very understanding of the fact that it is like a really weird, situation that I don't know if weird is the right way to say it, but it is definitely a difficult situation with Eldridge right now because, Eldridge doesn't have a lot of positional flexibility and the roster is, kind of a logjam. And there's not really a lot of things that they can do right now. So it's kind of understanding that, yes, in an ideal world, they would like Eldridge to get a little more playing time, but, Eldridge is, Eldridge is taking everything in stride. He's, for a 21-year-old, he's very mature. He's kind of attacking this. He's saying, all right, how can I best prepare for those days when I don't start? How can I adjust my routine to pinch hit? But, for Eldridge's development long-term, it is going to be, a looming question of, is this the best thing for him right now?
Talking with Justice Delos Santos here, covers the Giants for the Bay Area News Group, and he's having a one-on-one conversation with Buster Posey about Bryce Eldridge. It's going to be dropping momentarily. Find it there wherever you find San Jose Mercury News, East Bay Times. Also, got his YouTube channel up, Splash Considerations. Give him a follow there, as well as, of course, 95.7 The Game. Speaking of development, Justice, I liked what I've seen from Trevor McDonald here at the big league level. I know when Logan Webb, he's supposed to come back. He's going to have a rehab assignment soon. So probably see him sooner rather than later. I'm afraid, and I think a lot of Giants are afraid, that once Logan comes back, Trevor's going to get optioned back down. And I think a lot of them are feeling like, hey, it's not like Hauser and Malley have really solidified that 4-5 spot. You've got Ray, you've got Webb, you got Roop. Is there a chance that even when Logan comes back, Trevor McDonald could stay up?
I think it's definitely a consideration. I think it probably at this juncture would have to be in a relief role, which is kind of the big question of like, would you want to keep him in this bullpen and risk him not being, consistently stretched out? With Hauser, it's a little bit difficult to move off him. He has looked really good in his last 3 outings. I think he's only allowed 3 earned runs in his last 4 starts. He also pitched through that windstorm in West Sacramento on Sunday, but he is on a multi-year contract, and considering that he's pitched well in these last couple outings, I doubt they're going to move him out of the rotation. Malley, it's a little bit more different of a situation. He's only on the 1-year deal. They're not kind of beholden to him in the same way that they would be with Hauser. He's kind of been hot and cold, and like the hot starts have been really good. The cold starts have been really bad. So I think that's definitely a conversation that they're having. As far as if they're going to move off him right when Webb is ready to return, I don't think so. I think Malley does have an extensive track record of being really solid at the major league level. So I do think that once Webb is ready to return, I don't think there's really a clear runway for McDonald to stay in the rotation. As to whether they want to keep him as a reliever, like the bullpen hasn't looked as great in the month of May as it did in April. And maybe there's some consideration there as far as a multi-inning role or maybe a one-inning role. But I do think that, it's tough because they do want to keep him stretched out. It was the same reason they sent down Blade Tidwell a couple weeks back. So we'll wait and see. And all Trevor McDonald can really do is continue to pitch well because he's had a really weird career in the sense that, like, his numbers at AAA have never been good. But the second he gets an opportunity in the majors, and I think it's a result of not pitching in the PCL, the second he comes up in the majors, he just turns into a different guy.
Where are the big three guys at? Chapman, Devers, Adames, in terms of just where this team is relative to where they wanted to be? Are these guys like really frustrated? Are they just keeping their heads down? Are they showing that, this team still has fight? I wonder where those guys are at with this team right now because, a lot is, you make a $650 million investment long-term into those guys and you want them to not only lead by example, but lead by spirit. And I wonder where their spirit's at right now.
Well, I will say I'm not in the clubhouse every single hour of the day, so we only get that 50-minute window. But all three of these guys, they definitely run pretty even keeled. They've been playing this game long enough that they know how to navigate stretches like this. If you talk to Chapman or Adames or Devers, they're never going to get super high when things are going well. They're never going to get too super low when things aren't going well. We've talked with Chapman a decent amount of times throughout his struggles, and he's just pretty even keeled. If you just dropped into a conversation and you didn't have any context, you wouldn't know whether the team was 50 games above 500 or 50 games below 500. And same thing with Adames. He's maintained his perspective, even amidst some of his offensive struggles. So I think that's a good thing to have too. Just these guys that are going to run pretty even, neutral, regardless of whether or not things are going well. I know it's a cliche for a reason, to have those types of guys, but it is important to know exactly what you're getting out of your core guys on any given day, and that they're not going to be affected by the ebbs and flow of a season.
How big of a void is the Patrick Bailey one? Because we're not in the clubhouse. We don't see how this team is. Like, was he a leader on this team? Was he kind of just a young player trying to find his way? Because it feels like this team really loves Daniel Susac, and I like him too. But I don't think he'll be the only person filling that void. Is there any void with Bailey not on this team anymore?
He definitely is somebody that pitchers did enjoy playing with. And, you can argue about, the value of defensive metrics or whether they're overrated or properly rated and things like that. But I think the fact of the matter is, regardless of how you feel about Bailey, he was a 2-time Gold Glove Award winner. And, even in the ABS era, he's still consistently been able to steal strikes. Or was rather able to consistently steal strikes for the Giants. And, Daniel Susac, Jesus Rodriguez have only, maybe 20, 25 combined games under their belt. Now, it does help having Eric Haas in that mix to kind of help them out as they, get their way, find their bearings at the major league level. And, as of right now, they just don't really have an everyday catcher. So I guess that's really what you're missing with Bailey, although counterpoint, by the end of it, you didn't really have him as the everyday catcher. But even with the offense, and I think this is why the Guardians valued him so much, even with the lack of offense, he still is one of the best receivers in the game. So I think that's what you're missing more than anything is the receiving, the game calling. It's one of those things where you don't really realize it until you're not watching it anymore. And Bailey definitely wasn't perfect as a defender. It feels like there was some times where he was trying to frame up some balls instead of receiving them. But, there is a noticeable difference when Patrick Bailey was behind the plate versus Susac and Rodriguez and Haas with respect to those three.
Justice, great stuff this morning. I'll leave you with this one, just one more. We're 2 games away from the 50-game mark. They're 20-28. Is this just who the Giants are going to be the rest of the season?
It's hard to say. That's my cop-out answer. You never know. There isn't. I will say this. I went down a rabbit hole about a week ago, and I was curious. In San Francisco Giants history, how far have these Giants teams gotten below 500 and still made the playoffs? And since the Giants moved to San Francisco, there has only been one instance where they've really been well under 500 and still missed the playoffs. That was 2003 when they were 7 games below 500. They peaked at 9 this year. The last time they were 10 games below was 2019. And most of these Giants teams that make the playoffs, it's they never were below 500. There's they were 1 game below or 3 games below. So just going by that of, getting this far below 500, the track record isn't well. And I'm sure if you did this with any other franchise, it'd probably be the same. But there's also, it's hard to also not let your mind wander to the 2019 Nationals, where it's they had a really rough start to the season. They, ended up winning the World Series. Not saying the Giants are going to win the World Series, but, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played. And we've seen these moments where they rattle off 3 games and it's they might be turning the corner, but they can never really, it's weird. They've never won that 4th game in a row this season. But so that's my long-winded way of saying we got a lot of baseball left and time will tell.
We do, and we'll be tapping in with you all season long. Justice, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to the article being released momentarily.